Alright gamers, it's your boy Waffles back at it again with another video. So I'm installing Gentoo on my ThinkPad right now because I want to run a tour relay. And somebody just updated the wiki page on running a tour relay. So I'm like, oh cool, I'll go do that. But my mom wanted a new computer recently because she's got a cheap Windows laptop and I've upgraded it to like an SSD and I think 8 gigs of RAM or something, but it's still not the fastest thing in the world. But she decided she didn't really like Windows all that much. She wanted to use ChromeOS because she used a cheap Chromebook way back in the day when they were like new, and she like fell in love with it. She loves ChromeOS. So now my mom runs Gentoo because it's the base for ChromeOS. So I'm like, you know what? I don't really care what operating system we use, but it is funny to see that. Because I offered my mom a Mac, and I said, do you want a MacBook? You know, like, because that's what my dad wanted to give her, was a MacBook, even though he wanted to give her mine, which was a fucking 2014. So, I was like, no, if you're gonna do that, you gotta get her the M1. You can't give her this thing that has like 2 seconds of battery life. But, she said, oh, I hate Macs, I want a Chromebook. And she's used Linux before. I made her run Solus Linux for a while when she kept getting viruses. So, but she loves ChromeOS. So I'm like, you know, it's close enough to Linux, I don't really care. But it was interesting, it's something I brought up before, that people, there's this hesitation to use Linux because it's seen as like so hard, you know? And I have debated, and people really didn't like this, that I said SteamOS would not make a good desktop operating system. ChromeOS is kind of in a similar boat where it's really good for Chromebooks because it doesn't really do anything except like browse the web, you know, and everything's a web app, so it really makes sense for people that have pretty basic needs, you know. But where was I going with that? But anyways, like, I wouldn't see people use, it's actually pretty easy for people to switch from Windows to Chrome OS. And you see this a lot because for a while, Chromebooks were very prevalent in schools, where, like, for all the kids, they would give them a Chromebook or whatever. And contrary to what people say about Linux, because even though Linux doesn't really have that confusing of an interface, if you use something like GNOME or KDE, like anybody can pick it up. It's super easy. Freaking boomers on YouTube will tell you about how great Mate is or whatever they use, XFCE or whatever they want. What's interesting about that though is like it's a similar concept with Chrome OS, except unlike Linux, you can't like go further into it. You know, it's just what you see is what you get. You get a very surface level, basically a Linux distro. You know what I mean? And that's what I always say is whatever comes pre-installed with a computer, people will easily pick up. But as soon as they have to install things themselves, that's when they're like, oh, this is too hard. You know? And obviously, Linux itself, there's a lot of, because the thing is, if Chrome OS was trying to do everything Linux does, like a desktop Linux distribution, it would actually be pretty difficult to use. But because it fits this use case of everything is a web app and you can run everything in the browser, it becomes a very easy experience for people. And that's where I think that it's a different product, basically. It's different than a computer because you're not doing all the things that a computer would do. So, you know. But you know, like, you're not running all your Linux applications on there. So it is cool to see my mom basically using a stripped down version of Gentoo. That's pretty cool. uh and yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Thanks.